place in the county of Machakos, in the constituencies of Mavoko, in an area of Athi River. Mr. Speaker, first my sympathies go to those almost 10,000 families that have lost their livelihoods, their homes, their boards. Mr. Speaker, 5 churches were brought down, and Mr. Speaker, there are 33 churches on notice to also be brought down. Mr. Speaker, mosques, business premises, including 3 schools and a health facility, have also been brought down. Mr. Speaker, my sympathies notably go to one Mr. Madenge, Mr. Speaker, who is a hustler that took a loan to purchase land and went to the point of trying to confirm whether this land was actually legitimate, and that is only done when you go to the registry of lands, and confirmed that the people that were purporting to sell the land to him were actually the genuine landowners. And he invested his money and took a loan. And Mr. Speaker went to an architect and a civil engineer, got structural architectural drawings and structural drawings. And Mr. Speaker also sought the approval of the county government for construction of his house. Mr. Speaker, all this was granted. And Mr. Speaker, on the basis of that, he took a loan and built a house. Mr. Speaker, it is not even 10 years since this house was built. It has been brought down. What remains is rubble. It is important to note, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Madenge still continues now, every month from his salary, to pay a housing levy. Mr. Speaker, it is a tragedy. My sympathies go to those families where their houses were brought down on that first night. And so children woke up the next day, they had no school to go to. It is unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, because also families had nowhere to live, because this destruction started in the evening. And by morning, Mr. Speaker, people were thrown out. Children spent the night out in the cold. Mothers with small children were out in the cold. Fathers had no answers for their families. Mr. Speaker, it is a major tragedy. Mr. Speaker, I want to condemn in the strongest terms possible those that gave the instructions for the demolition to take place. It is so unfortunate, 60 years after independence, that people can be hoodwinked, buy land, and process titles, get connected to the national grid of electricity, road networks are put up, water is supplied in that area by the county government, and then suddenly all this comes down. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to condemn the police that was sent there in huge numbers. Mr. Speaker, it was so unfortunate because I went there as a local leader to go condole with these families and to see how we could help the children that spend the night out in the cold, whether we would provide them with blankets, whether we would buy for them a cup of tea. Mr. Speaker, we were chased like dogs, Mr. Speaker. It is unfortunate. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the history of this land, this is ancestral land. It is our heritage, the heritage of the people of Machakos. And Mr. Speaker, the land was given to the East African Portland Cement. They did not purchase it. The reason that East African Portland Cement was given this land was simply because that area was rich in minerals that are used in the production of cement. So they were given this land for purposes of mining so that they could be able to process cement, and that was the main business of East African Portland Cement. Mr. Speaker, it is notable that the East African Portland Cement has run into billions of debt as a result of the poor management of the business itself, a business that was once a monopoly of production of cement in this country. And therefore, in order to cover their losses, in order to cover their poor business practices, now East African Portland purports to want to sell the land that belongs to the community of Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, I think that is something we cannot take for granted. Mr. Speaker, it is also good to note that when these evictions were done, there was no eviction order that was given by the court. Mr. Speaker, the case that was taken to court was thrown out on technicality. And the only thing that the judge finally said was that we need to set a date of hearing so that a discussion could take place, so that the case would be heard. The case was never heard. And then, so therefore, after it was thrown out on technicality, bulldozers, the sound of bulldozers, the sound of wailing women and children is what we could hear from that place. So, Mr. Speaker, it is quite an irony that 60 years after independence, people can be thrown out in that manner. Mr. Speaker, it's also notable that Clause 155 of the Land Act does indicate that in order for anyone to be evicted, there must be two things. One, a court order, so that we can be sure that the court process has taken place. And two, Mr. Speaker, a notice of 60 days. You noticed that recently when there was a ruling about the land that was owned by Gerishon Kirima, the late honorable member, they have given the occupants 60 days, and they have also opened up an opportunity for discussions. Mr. Speaker, that was not the case in Mavoko. That was not the case in our region. And Mr. Speaker, it's also good to note that it is on record that there are other areas where there were issues of land disputes, and evictions were to take place. And none other than the Deputy President himself, Mr. Speaker, said that he will not allow the evictions to take place in Okalau. Are the people of Mavoko any less than the ones in Okalau? Or is it true that there are people that are shareholders and that those that are not? Mr. Speaker, on the inauguration of this government of Kenya Kwanza, there was very clear information given to us that from now, Kenyans are now safe, and no one will have their house brought down as a result of a land dispute. It is shocking, Mr. Speaker, that the worst ever case from the history of this country of demolitions of people who are innocent has happened only 11 months after this team of leadership of Kenya Kwanza was sworn into office. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that we look at it from this perspective. There may be people that are capable, Mr. Speaker, and that is why DCI is getting involved, ESCC is getting involved. We know there were letters that were being thrown out from long time ago for people to be investigated. But, Mr. Speaker, those people whose houses have come down are not guilty of any crime other than purchasing land and putting up a house. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that this is happening to our people, and I want to ask that the government do what they said on the time of inauguration. Let them take care of these Kenyan hustlers. Let them make sure that those people whose houses were brought down are supported by being compensated, Mr. Speaker. Let them be compensated. Let them not have worked so hard to put up an abode for their families. And that all goes to waste, Mr. Speaker, at a split of a second. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to say that it was also unfortunate and shocking when we saw that East African Portland Cement, after bringing down almost 10,000 homes, were now purporting to want to sell the land to the people that were occupying that land. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate. It is shocking. It is something that this House must condemn in the strongest terms possible, and it is something that we must say should never again happen in the history of this country. It is a shame on us, even as leaders, for this country, many years after independence, for this kind of situation to take place. And we as leaders must stand up to be counted. We must defend the rights of the people. We must represent the people. We must legislate on their behalf, Mr. Speaker. And I think we have enough laws. All that matters now is for us to represent them and say enough is enough. And no further demolitions of innocent Kenyans' homes will take place in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The leader of the minority party in Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, let me join the Honorable Robert Mbui in condemning, in the strongest terms possible, the atrocities which have been meted by the state against the hapless dwellers of Mavoko in the recent past. Even as we speak, Mr. Speaker, the demolitions are ongoing. Mr. Speaker, court order or no court order, no sane government, and I'm calling it government because the police were there. The police were mobilized to go and watch over as people's dwellings were brought down. No sane government on earth can participate in the kind of destruction of human settlements in the manner this government has done. Mr. Speaker, under the international law, displacement of populations, displacement of populations, subjecting human beings to inhuman treatment are crimes against humanity. So what the Kenya Kwanza government has done, to the dwellers of Mavoko in the last 2-3 weeks amount to crimes against humanity. And I want to warn whoever has been involved in this, court order or no court order, that the law will catch up with you. The law will eventually catch up with you. Mr. Speaker, we have been told that there was a court order. But even as we say so, which government can subject human beings to a treatment which even wild animals can't be subjected to? Mr. Speaker, even the KWS, when they want to transfer elephants, lions, zebras, they treat them in a more humane manner than the manner in which this government has treated the inhabitants of the Mavoko settlement area. And there's no point of order, Mr. Speaker. This is a very serious matter that you don't want to trivialize.
Honorable Naomi Wako, you are going to speak immediately after the minority leader.
Just relax, yes.
Yes, so let us speak without interruptions,
Mr. Speaker,
unless there is a clear breach of the standing orders.
The least that any sane government would do is to give such homeowners a reasonable notice. Not a notice to eventually evict them, but a notice to allow them to come to some kind of agreement or settlement with whoever is laying claim on the land. Mr. Speaker, this land that is being claimed by the East Africa Portland Cement has a long history, has a very long history. And we know for sure that the reason why the government is in a hurry to evict these persons is because they want to put Portland Cement for sale. They want Portland Cement to be bought by these cartels. The cartels in Kenya Kwanza have lined up to buy Portland Cement, and therefore they want that the time they'll be buying it, they should buy it together with the land. The intention here is to clear this land of inhabitants, to clear this vast land of people who have settled on it, so that by the time they acquire, by the time they grab the Portland Cement, they can grab it together with the vast land. That is the issue. And I have to tell you today, Kenya Kwanza, that what you have done will go down in history as the cruelest thing that any government can ever do to its citizens. Mr. Speaker, you cannot treat Kenyans as wild animals. You cannot evict people when schools are about to start doing exams. Class 8 pupils, Form 4 students, Class 6 candidates are supposed to start doing the national exams in a matter of weeks, if not days. You cannot evict such people. Mr. Speaker, you cannot demolish churches, the houses of God, and yet you proclaim to be God-fearing people. What hypocrisy is this? What hypocrisy is this? You proclaim on one hand that you are God-fearing. Every time that you go out there masquerading as Christians, and yet you evict people, you demolish their churches. You demolish their schools. Mr. Speaker, this in
Honorable Wandai, your time is up. You have 2 minutes because you are a leader. Only because of that. And I'm only doing this.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Let me say this, Honorable Wandai. Honorable Wandai, this is an adjournment motion. It was not timed, so based on interest, it can go up to 9. That is why I'm requesting members not to unduly intervene, because each member speaks for only 5 minutes. All of you can speaking anything, so long as nothing is out of order. So accommodate one another as much as possible. We have all the time for all members I see in the House. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, we are seeing now other busybodies taking cue from the Mavoko incident. We have heard that equally there is a possibility of people being evicted in Njiru. Is the member addressing me or the speaker? But you can't, let me continue. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow this culture of impunity to take root in this country under our watch. We are saying that Kenya Kwanza must be called out for getting involved in this kind of atrocities against helpless citizens of this country, who they promise to protect. If you cannot protect an innocent home dweller who has taken a loan from a bank, from a SACCO, to put up a home, who then will you protect? Is this government meant for the cartels, or is it meant for the whole country? Is this a government that is simply going to be serving the interests of the cartels in it? Or is this a government that can be trusted to serve the interests of all citizens? We don't want to know who bought the land first. We don't want to know who owned the land first. We don't want to know how the land was acquired by.
Honorable Patrick Makau. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
The Honorable Majority
even
Leader.
before I speak, Honorable Speaker, even before I speak, may I urge my honorable colleagues that allow me, I bring in some perspective that will help all of us. In our language, we say the believed does not speak a lot. But today, I want to bring some history about this land of Mavoko. And I urge Kenyans, we approach this issue with a lot of sobriety, no emotions, because it's going to address a lot of evils from all the agencies that are concerned with land dealings in this country. Mr. Speaker, I am the MP Mavoko, and I want to tell this House, I have institutional memory of that constituency. And not forgetting that this land in issue, the land in question, Portland has its land. Portland has got many parcels of land. And the only parcel that is in question is LL 10424. So members, as we speak, let us not have a blanket condemnation of how many LL numbers we are addressing. The demolitions happened on LL number 10424. Honorable Speaker, members remember who are here on the 11th, during the 11th Parliament, that I brought a petition in this House requiring the Committee on Lands to have Portland surrender its mined land with letters which were signed by the board, and they agreed that they have had 2,000 acres that they have mined, and they are ready to surrender to the local community. Honorable members, one thing we should understand is once land is surrendered, as per Article 67, it goes back to NLC, National Lands Commission, who in turn surrenders it to the local county government of that area. Then the local county government of that area decides the land use. The LL number I brought here was 8786, stroke 144, 145, and 146. And Mr. Speaker, we agreed with Portland, and it was agreed by even the then Committee of Lands, Department of Lands, led by Honorable Mwiru, that they were ready. We went ahead, NLSC agreed, the then Interior Minister, Mr. Ngaiseri, agreed, and that was agreed that they're going to give out the land. Mr. Speaker, however, during that time, the LL 10464 was in existence. However, and I want members to note, this land in question was owned or was claimed by Portland and Aimimalu Kenya. Aimimalu Kenya had a title for that parcel of land summing to 4,298 acres. Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves, where did Portland get this land? I agree with speakers that this land belonged to the people of Machakos County before it was allocated to Portland. Now, there must have been people who are living there. These Aimimalu Kenya claim that their grandparents were buried there and they're the ones who had that land. Mr. Speaker, what we should be asking ourselves is, since 2013, when the new government of Machakos came in place, they are the ones who started approving buildings. They were collecting rates, from the same parcel of land. Mr. Speaker, today you know you cannot open a file in any county government without ownership documents. Mr. Speaker, and that's why I'm saying there is no way you can build in any municipal or city in this town without approvals from the county. Now, if since 2013 to 2023, the county government of Machakos has been approving these houses, at what point did Portland know that it was not their land? Number two, these were two entities competing for one land, Imima Kenya and Portland. Now, if this case went to court, for the court to determine who are the rightful owners of this land, Mr. Speaker, the owners of these houses had, and they claimed on national television that they went to banks using the same title, they were given loans, they were being used by county governments for approvals, they went for search, and they were coming out with the right title deed. Mr. Chairman, I condemn with the strongest term possible the demolition.
Honorable Mavoko, because you are keeping to facts, not inflammatory statements, I'll give you 2 minutes. But wind up because the
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the big question is,
to speak.
Mr. Speaker, even as we speak here, the Minister of Lands must be held culpable. Why did they issue 2 titles on one parcel of land? Why were the county governments approving these houses on the same title deed? Mr. Speaker, we know the government is the issuer of title deeds. They are the ones who verify. They're the ones who nullify. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the title which has been given to the court belonging to Imima Kenya, was issued 1980. The one of Portland was issued 2022 and 2023. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we must agree, and I've said it, and I'm saying it again. Had we had a dialogue with the various interested parties, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, this could not have happened. At least we should have saved those houses. And Mr. Speaker, those Kenyans are very innocent. Today, to build 10 by 10 is very expensive. Mr. Speaker, also, this is not an issue which should not be politicized. Mr. Speaker, I am the MP Mavoko. I represent pastors, MPs, thieves, and everybody. So for me to go and answer for a call of crime, Mr. Speaker, you should not associate me with that. Mr. Speaker, there are processes of buying land. If there is anybody who can point a finger at the MP Mavoko, let them point a finger, bring out trails and show anything. But Mr. Speaker, we must be alive to the fact that titles are issued by Ministry of Lands, they are verified by counties, even Kenya Power had put power lines there, water was put there. Where were they? Why are they making Kenyans suffer? Because of political differences, because of political divides. And I'm ashamed by members of parliament who come from Mukambani and they were not even in support of the community. Mr. Speaker, at one point, and I love Kenyans who go back sometimes. If it was Ishungwa, and I respect it. One time I saw him in Kikuyu saying, my people of Mavoko, my people of Mavoko should be respected. They should be...
Honorable Patrick Makau, your time is up. The majority leader proceed to make your contribution. You take precedence over everybody else in the House.
Thank you, Honorable
These
Speaker.
people making requests like Honorable Joyce Kamene, we'll have to wait until the Honorable Majority Leader is done.